welcome to Scry-fi. We're talking about episode 6 of the Acolyte. Episode 6 is called Teach/Corrupt. So they went back to that title.
Yeah, and I heard somebody say it was because the twins had been apart or came together and then they went apart. So whenever they're together, the title is one.
That's funny because I was just thinking that earlier today, and I didn't see anybody else say it, but that's a cool.
Yeah, that's clever. Pretty cool. I thought it was like originally day and night were a slash. They said let's make it 2 episodes, and then they just didn't know what to do with the title, so it's much better.
Right. Well, there was one before it, right? Destiny, I think it was called, and that one they're together too, and that's the back. That's the flashback. So that makes sense.
Anyway, but yeah, in short, the episode was too short.
Oh yeah,
I thought for one thing, but has so much more to talk about, and it was so interesting, the stuff in this, even though the one before it I think was more exciting action wise. This one had a lot of really meaty stuff to get into. So
yeah, I just wanted to pull up the IMDb here just in case we have some questions about who played
with character names and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it starts off with we kind of guessed that this was going to be the case. We were afraid that it was going to do this is the flashback one kind of thing. We're going to get the flashback where Soul eventually, I
think we'll see that.
I think that's the next one.
Hopefully,
we know there's 8
episodes. One line. Yeah, I did this bad thing. Oh, okay. And then they move on with the what?
Yeah. So thankfully we open up here. I do have a little issue about timing, but we'll get to that. So
this is the same shot as when Osha woke up before. They've done this before. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember that little sideways camera thing.
Right. Yeah, they like to do like upside down stuff and stuff like that. I think it was on the last episode where she wakes up in 5, right?
Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember seeing it before. Maybe in the comments people can remind us of that.
Yeah. So she looks around the cave. She notices she's been healed. So last time, whenever he rolled her, I wasn't sure if he was healing her or not.
Yeah, I thought that was my impression that he healed her, but then
I think it was just the movement of the light or something made it look like the red kind of went away or something.
Yeah, but now it looks like he definitely did.
Well, he didn't use the force to heal her though, right? He put bandages on her,
and the bandage has blood on it, so maybe he did. And this is just he bandaged her up. Okay, yeah. Because I was going to say, he could have had that ability since we've now learned he used to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
But this is cool too. I mean,
so this is, I always love scenes like this whenever somebody wakes up in a strange place, because I always think, what would I do? What's the first step?
Well, one thing I would have done, though, is look around that corner. You want to check everywhere for a person before you start messing with stuff and making noise.
The first thing I do is grab anything that could be a weapon. She doesn't do that.
She does eventually, but it's not quick enough.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you wake up and you're in someone's bed and they've bandaged you, they're probably not going to kill you. You're not in danger, right? But still,
I'd still do it. I'd still look for something because you don't know.
But she takes a drink. She must have been really thirsty. That's fair. It looks like maybe even food is set out for her.
Yeah.
I don't know if she eats any of that.
So
she looks around. I like that she finds some clothes.
Yeah, it's her sister's clothes, I think.
That would make sense. Yeah. Puts on the clothes. Yeah.
Now, they call this Unknown Planet.
Yeah.
And I thought, we've seen this before earlier in the show. I don't know when and where we saw it, but we saw it because we were talking about it, and I said it looked like Octo.
Yeah, it's I think we know that it either it's not or
there was something that showed there was an island like that. It was that scene. I mean, it was definitely that place.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, "Oh, that looks like Octo," but I thought they called it something else. But it was oceans with little islands sticking up with the green moss on it, like that.
Yeah.
And it was earlier in this show.
Yeah. It might not be. I mean, it might just be something very similar, and maybe they want that kind of dichotomy, the balance of Luke was here and now he's over here. Like he has his own little place where he's retired.
It's like their Octo, so they're making
Yeah,
it.
yeah, something
I
like
don't
that.
know though. To me, it's like why call it unknown and then have it look exactly like Octo?
Yeah, I don't know. But I think it's interesting he has to park the ship away. And when I saw this, I thought, is the tide in and that's why you can't walk out to it?
He said later the tide will come back out, but I think he
Yeah.
arranged that on purpose so that he'd have a chance to talk with her.
It doesn't seem like you'd have to swim that much, honestly.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that big a deal. So she sees the ship. She's thinking about what should I do, blah, 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 right? And this is where, like, there's no way that he didn't just see her. Like, where was he when she came out that she didn't see him?
He's playing a game. He's trying
Yeah.
to seem docile, passive, so that she's curious. And
yeah. Now, here's where the timing thing kind of messes up for me, right? So they go back to Kofar. They flash back to it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the ship leaving.
Oh, there's something
right now
that we saw at the very beginning where Soul is in space. He shoots her and then warps out of there, or hyper jumps out of there. That was not last episode. That was this episode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's already happened.
No, that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, this is him doing it. This is him.
That's way later. That hasn't happened yet. What happened last episode is they got to the ship.
That's Soul in the ship.
Okay. Yeah. So Soul and May pretending to be Osha.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was later and we were seeing the other group arrive.
So yeah, and then the little, I don't know what his name is, the little rat guy sniffing her kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's a species, by the way, I discovered came out in some book a long time ago. That's cool. Like a solo book or something like that.
I like when they
pull
those things.
Let's record it here.
But here's my timing issue: is that he had time. The stranger or Qimir or whatever you want to name it, his name is. He had time to pick her up, and then take her to a ship, and then fly to a planet, put her down, dress her wounds, all in the same time that they were hanging out.
They could be going back a little ways to show us what was going on at the same time. Like, meanwhile, this happened.
Right.
Timing
I think
Star Wars is always kind of subjective. They do a lot of editing for pace.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I think they should have done this scene first because that's exactly where they left off.
Mm-hmm.
They left off with him with the stranger.
I would understand it if he had all the bodies on board or something like that, or so we'd seen him do something that.
Right. We left the last episode with Qimir standing over Osha, and then them getting on board. Right. So to start, what would be hours later, maybe?
I'm going to say, okay, let's rewind and see what was happening meanwhile.
Right. And it doesn't matter that they're happening at the same time or a little off and stuff. It's just, it was weird to me. I was like, wait, we're here? Like,
a little confusing. But
it felt like hours had passed. Yeah. That's my only issue with the thing. He's trying to communicate and they're having communication problems, which as far as I know, they hadn't before, right?
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that or why that happened. I was trying to figure that out. And they're having power issues too with this ship.
Well, I think later
the little rat guy was causing problems on purpose to make her have to come down there so he could grab her leg.
Yeah, I don't think it was to make her go down there. I think it was we can't let her get free or something. I don't know why he can't communicate.
Why can't? Yeah, I don't know. He's obviously an intelligent being. If there's a language issue, that might explain why he was going to reactivate the little droid, because maybe the droid could translate for him.
Sure, but why not like, hey, Jedi? No,
at
that's
least
wrong.
Try to. Yeah, the Jedi would be able to sense and figure out something was off. So I don't know why he wasn't communicating it to Soul. Unless he didn't think there was a way he could do it without her noticing. Like, because they were together.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he didn't want to. I don't know. Yeah, I can't figure that out either. I don't know exactly what his motives were, what his plan was.
I mean, it could be that he didn't know that she even had a twin, right? She just smelt wrong. Something's off about her or something.
Well, I kind of assume if there's an intelligent alien around that they're just like everybody else and they kind of know what's going on, you know? But he was just a tech. He wasn't like one of the Jedi, so maybe he wasn't told anything but keep the ship running. And I
Yeah,
don't know.
this little guy.
And he was also told he was tracking somebody before. That's why he has the scent.
Right.
So he probably knows that's May.
Yeah, he was tracking
That's why
her.
her. So the only real question is why didn't he try to get through to Soul? And all I can figure is if he goes up deck where both of them are, he couldn't get him alone without tipping his hand or something, you know.
I guess. Maybe he thought, oh, I'll mess up the ship and the Jedi will come back to fix it and I'll tell them there.
Yeah, but I do have to assume that the issues are happening because the little rat guy, I don't know his name. Is it
Right.
in the credits? Or in
Oh.
your thing?
No, I don't think so. No.
So I just call him little rat guy. So little rat guy, I think definitely is the one who causing these problems. And I don't think he necessarily meant to cause communication problems per se, but he's causing power issues that cause everything to glitch.
Right. Yeah, it's a little
But it keeps them
strange
from
as to why
saying
it's
anything
doing it.
about the Sith back to the
Yeah.
Jedi, which is cool.
It's a little strange as to why he's doing it. Maybe if we knew more about the species or the character himself. Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't think so. I think they just didn't make it real clear. I mean, he's obviously doing something to try to mess things up, to slow things down.
Yeah.
Maybe he just doesn't know what, you know, but I've seen people come up with weird stuff like that in role playing games, and you're like, what? And then later you ask them, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? You know? So it's not necessarily unrealistic. It's just, it would have been better if we understood his motives better or his plan better. You know?
Trying to look for his name on here, but yeah, they don't have it, and at least I can't find it in IMDb. Let us know in the comments if you know what it is. And correct spelling would be helpful.
Yeah, commenters are part of the show because we got to have that documentation down below. Yes.
So Soul is clearly in distress, which is why he can't sense someone sneaking up on him.
Yeah, I think I think they kept it a reasonable amount of time. It was you got the thing about Dark Side being good at hiding itself, and then you got him being distracted and in distress, and he eventually does figure it out. He zaps her, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird to see a Jedi like this.
Yeah,
upset,
he's
right?
way more disturbed by things than a Jedi should be. And I think what happens is when Jedi violate their own standards, it puts them at a disadvantage. It weakens them because all of their abilities are based on keeping those standards.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of the Sith techniques are trying to get them to act out of their thing, you know.
Yeah, he even mentions to May later on that her master compromised him or something like that.
If the Jedi keeps their ethics and their principles and their rules, then all kinds of emotionally things can happen to them and they can endure it, you know, can be at peace with it and all that. But if they themselves make themselves vulnerable by violating those rules, by defiling themselves, and it causes an imbalance in their equilibrium, and then they become kind of like Spock in a mock time on Star Trek. You know, their logical abilities kind of go down.
You're crossing the streams. So let's jump to this moment where Quimir's.
I really loved these scenes with him.
Yeah,
really interesting to see this dark side point of view expressed in this way. And what he's doing, obviously, making himself vulnerable.
Yeah, and he was wearing the clothes that he was wearing while fighting, so he may have really just gotten there, put her down,
Hmm.
and put the bandage on in mid-flight,
Yeah, you
and
have to
then
like
walked out.
with those two events taking place. You have to assume as short as you can with this, and as long as you can with the other one, and then
Right. Yeah.
and some overlap. Meanwhiles, in the editing. So he puts on after this like more natural looking cloths that don't look
Hmm.
evil. Oh, and then just being, yeah. Oh yeah, you got the lightsaber.
Now we do get a cool view of the scars back here. A lot
Yeah.
of people are talking about those scars. We'll see them again, I think.
Uh-huh. Later, he'll lift his shirt up. I
Yeah.
don't think he sees him right now.
Yeah. Well, we just saw him for a second there, but
I mean, he's facing away toward her, so I don't think she's
right.
seen him yet. She'll see him later when he raises his shirt up. Oh yeah, see, it's on there. Oh yeah, there's that cool ship. I like that ship.
Oh yeah, the ship that they connect to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, that's kind of like the ships that we saw on episode 3, right, or episode 2, whenever Obi-Wan
The fighter
Kenobi has
with
the
the
connection. Yeah,
jump drives. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that it's chunkier, so it feels like it's a little bit older, that kind of thing. So, at what point do you think he realizes it's May?
Not here because he's turning his back on her.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly when it was, but it wasn't long before he's after. Now this scene is really interesting. They're talking about how the Senate is starting to want to have more oversight over the Jedi and stuff, and she's very interested in what's going on with the Senate and senators and political stuff. My understanding is that during the High Republic, there's not as much connection between the Jedi and the government.
Right.
So we're seeing some of this happening here.
Yeah. In fact, she's talking to a senator, and
Uh-huh.
she's getting information from a senator. So
that guy is an Abed Neto, who's the same species as one of I think the first time we saw him was as one of the X-wing pilots in the sequel trilogy.
Oh, that's cool.
Species, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh right, yeah. I have that figure. I can't remember his name right now, but I have that figure back there. Yeah, and then we get. I guess this is a knight or an apprentice that's talking to her.
Looks like I can't see if he has a braid, but he looks youngish. Could be a Padawan. I don't know.
He has a name on here. He is Mog Adana. M-O-G. Mog. He seems very green.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very young. Sure.
Yeah.
Just a little assistant role.
Is he a Padawan? Does he have a braid?
I don't see a braid. Now, what if he's see, I don't know about this. Could there be young Jedi apprentices, students, or whatever that have not been adopted?
I saw the braid.
Oh, you saw it. Okay.
Yep. Here, just as he turns, it's sticking out with the rat tail.
Could there be young Jedi who aren't yet a knight, but they haven't had another knight take them on as a master? I don't know what that would be, but anyway.
That would be a not a Jedi, I would imagine. Uh-huh. I mean, you have a youngling Padawan and then a knight, right?
No, you have youngling Padawan knight. So I guess
and
they
then a master.
Take on a master at some point.
Yeah. Either that or you don't get to become a Jedi, which is probably what happened with Osha, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So he does this whole thing, I'm at your mercy. Of course, I don't think she's even fooled by that. She knows at any point he could probably
he's so much more powerful than her. He can afford to.
Right.
Big deal. He's not in danger. Okay, so this guy comes out and he presses the reset, I think droids are normally a lot more difficult to reset their loyalties, but this is a simple little tool droid. So,
Yeah. Does that mean that she reset its memory? Like, did she basically kill Osha's little friend?
I don't know. I don't know. Could be she has a backup somewhere. She keeps it in the iCloud.
I think it's funny that the reset is kind of like an iPod or something. It's
Yeah,
like,
and of course,
or
when
an
you're going
iPhone.
to
Yeah.
bad guys, your lights turn red. So
Yeah. Well, that's what happened to C-3PO, if you recall.
when they restarted him, his
Episode,
eyes
yeah,
went
9.
red.
Yeah.
That's,
Yep.
that's cool.
Just means they're in reset mode, I guess.
Ready to take on instructions from a new master.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting how he talks to her. He keeps asking questions about, are you sure it's this way and not this?
Yeah,
It's
what
not
he said
this,
about
not
her
this.
friend, it was a one-sided relationship. He's just like playing on her doubts, and then also he says at one point something like, "Why did you leave the order?" And she said, "I left because I wanted to," but he knows that there was something not working out right. And he says,
Right.
"Why did you do a Jedi?" And so he's trying to highlight the fact that on their end they had problems with her too.
Yeah, and this is also the part where he says he was once a Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
which really, I think that gives us the information we need about, is he really Sith and stuff. I don't think he is.
Oh, I think here's what happened. I think he was a Jedi. He got in a conflict with what's the green lady's name?
Ernestra.
Vernestra. And Vernestra used her little lightsaber whip thing and hit him in the back in their struggle or whatever happened. And then he went off and then got picked up by a Sith who tried to take him on as an apprentice, but that didn't work out either. And now he's just like a rejected, whatever. The Sith guy decided not to take him on as an apprentice or rejected him or something.
I
So
think
in the chain of master and apprentice through history, he's just like an offshoot that never was picked up.
Yeah, I think that's. I think you're inserting a character that didn't happen. I don't think there's another Sith.
But he said he's Sith. He has.
I think he
Sith training,
found some
knows about Sith
information about the
philosophy.
Sith, and he was learning about the dark side. She found out.
Yeah, I could
They
see
fought.
that.
He got away.
I can see that either way.
Because he doesn't come across as like, I don't know,
But everything
religious
he's
about
saying
it.
is perfectly in line with Sith philosophy.
Sure, but it just doesn't feel exactly right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe it's because,
Well, it would explain it though. If he was starting to get trained and then got rejected
Sure.
or left,
I think there's a
feel like this
holocron or
tinge
something
of
like
Sith
that involved.
to him, but he would be an offshoot, So we don't really know.
I wonder if he is prepared to move quickly. If she, like, can he sense that she's about to push and be able to move it? Or is he really putting his life in her hands?
I don't know.
I think this is kind of
He
a.
might be very confident in his sensing abilities and reflexes.
Right. She's so emotionally, like, all over the place. I think he could feel if there was
he also might be
there.
Yeah, but he also might be really willing to accept some degree of risk to take on her as a Padawan.
Yeah,
apprentice.
I guess so. I mean, he looks like that's his goal, is to have, a connection. There's a lot of talk about dyads in this because of the twins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's some kind of connection between the right apprentice and the right master.
Well, of course there is. We know that.
Sure, I mean, in a way that you could feed off of that power, right?
Maybe. Not
like
to
we
the
see
degree
in
of a dyad, though. A dyad is like a real super major special thing.
Sure, but that might be something that you can eventually create.
Well, Palpatine tried to create a dyad and failed.
Right.
So, it had been seen for generations and all that. So,
Well, maybe that's the entire point of.
I don't think that's his point. I think he just wants an acolyte.
That might be the point of the power of two, like that. There's always
they may
two.
have a
The Sith.
dyad between the two twins.
Sure, but I mean, as the Sith, how there's always two. That might be the entire point of them always trying to get a apprentice because they're trying to create more power for themselves.
I think if they could get a dyad going, that would be great in their view. But the main reason for the power two is just so they stay a minimal number and they aren't detected by the Jedi.
I mean, that's what we've been told. I think this is being sure. I think that's what it's been in the past, but I think they're adding to it with the whole dyad thing and stuff like that. I don't
think they're adding anything here.
Remember in episode 9 where Palpatine takes the power from the dyad?
Well, sure. Any Sith throughout any Star Wars production throughout history, if they see a dyad or they figure out the way they can make a dyad, that's cool. They can feed off that. But I doubt he's trying to do that or has that in mind.
I don't know. I could see it as that's the reason why they want the apprentice, is because if they can make it happen, then awesome. Otherwise, they discard him like Darth Maul.
Okay, so because there's a dyad between the two sisters. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that I can believe.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying he's trying to make a dyad between him and her.
Oh, no, that's what I am saying.
Oh, I doubt that. I don't think he thinks he could do that. It's so outrageously difficult and rare.
Sure, but that's what they do.
He's not that powerful.
All of them, yeah, but they all seek power, right? That's the whole point of the Sith.
Right, but you know what you can and can't do. I mean,
I don't think the Sith have limits for themselves like that. That's the entire point.
They know how powerful they are. They know that something.
But they want to become more powerful.
Yeah, he can try, but he can also just. Why didn't he just go to the Jedi Temple and kill all the Jedi?
Well, he knows how powerful he is.
Why doesn't he do that?
Because he knows how powerful he is, but he thinks he can become more powerful.
Do you think he would like to go to the Jedi Temple and kill all the Jedi?
I actually don't know.
Well, let's say he does because he's the bad guy or whatever.
Sure.
He's not going to because he knows he can't, so why would he think he could make a dyad? I mean, I don't know. That seems.
I'm not saying he would fashion the dyad. I'm saying a dyad would form of its own.
Oh, well, you hope so.
Collection. Yeah.
I think they hope they see it, but.
So Vernestra is. There's something suspicious.
Yeah, that species right there is from the old Republic computer game. I remember seeing it in that game.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I've seen this actor before, I think, or at least he's familiar.
Isn't that Mog or whatever?
Yeah, Mog. Half man, half dog. He's a Mog.
Is it MOG?
It's MOG, yeah.
Oh man, I didn't draw that connection at first.
That's funny. Yeah, I guess they didn't either. But anyway, she just looks like she's like angry.
Definitely up to something. She knows something. She knows that she's got some loose kid she had a falling out with and hit in the back with her whip, and
some loose kid.
Then he went away and she never told anybody about it, or I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely, and that's why she wants to go, because she thinks it is this person now. She's figured it out.
Maybe.
She's definitely been involved in this.
Yeah.
Something fishy. Oh, so, she said she gets, and I didn't know this myself because I didn't read all the High Republic stuff and all, but apparently her character gets these special visions when she goes into hyperspace. She only said in this that it makes her feel nauseous or something like that. But,
uneasy or something, yeah.
Yeah, she also said something like, the scales have tipped. Now, what if, okay, let me put these things together. What if the reason the High Republic is coming to an end is because the scales have tipped, putting the Force out of balance because either these twins were created with midichlorians or because bad guys are doing stuff or whatever it is, or the Jedi did something they weren't supposed to do. Whatever it is, puts the Force out of balance. So now the Jedi, from this point on, is the point at which the Jedi think we need to bring the Force back into balance. And she, with her visions that she gets in hyperspace, is the origin of the prophecy of the one who will one day come and bring balance to the Force.
Okay, that would be cool.
If that's
That
how
would
all
be
that
really
connects, I could totally see that.
That would be pretty cool, yeah. Although you would think they'd make more of a bigger deal of her having visions in hyperspace.
Well, we know that from the other materials. Maybe that's something to come.
Sure.
Who knows?
Maybe in season 2 or something like that, if there's a thing. So
you got 2 more episodes to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he notices the droid. I wonder if he notices that it's been reset.
Yeah, if red is a common thing that everybody would know, it means it's been reset. That could be what he noticed. And he knows that she has an attachment with the droid, wouldn't reset him.
Right. He even says, I know that you love the droid.
Okay, this is the point at which he's like,
Yeah. I wonder also, like he doesn't ask how she gets it back. He saw her put that droid on the back of Qimir, the stranger, and then he flew off. And he goes, "Oh, you got it back," but doesn't say anything.
That's another thing. I guess even beside the red lights, he could have figured out that reason. Like, you got it back.
Because you'd be like, "How'd you get that back? It was stuck to the Sith that went flying up in the
right." Which is kind of funny because she actually only got it back because the little rag guy got it and brought it back, but he doesn't know that, so
right,
still works as a reason to be suspicious.
Yeah.
I suspect, too, that once you're on to a Sith who's been hiding in your presence, and you start then trying to probe, and you're asking and having reactions and paying attention as they do the reactions, that you can pierce through that at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if Yoda had said, I think Palpatine is the Sith Lord, and he went in there and goes, so tell me about such and such. Started getting these questions to him. And, well, Master Yoda, I don't know what you're talking about. I think at that point, the sensing ability would be easier, and he would,
It's treason then.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that was pretty cool that he's like, all right, I'm going to get out of here. He ignores the call, which is interesting.
Yeah. And he leaves right before they come. It's like he knew they were coming.
Yeah. They say, hey, report back.
Why does he not want to interact with them?
Well, because he wants to tell May everything that's happened, and he wants to go save Osha.
But why not have them come, tell him all this stuff, and then say, come with me, and then they all go?
Well, remember he said it's time, before he knew that it was May, he said it's time for me to tell the High Council what happened those years ago. Obviously, they did some bad stuff.
Maybe he's afraid to show up, and they're going to want all these answers. He's going to have to make reports. They're going to have to decide what they want to do. All that's going to take time. He's like, no, we don't have time for that. I just got to go and go save her.
Osha's in danger. I got to save her kind of thing.
He must have some idea of where she is.
He knows Vernestra is very, pulls back, holds him back.
You want to get caught up in all that red tape of interacting with them. I could see that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not
where is he taking her
procedure, but I could see his character.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that they show up and they're like, oh, okay, let's do a proper burial and all that stuff, right?
I love he mentions that it's cortosis, as everybody figured out.
Oh, and there's a vein of it too.
Yeah.
So that's why he's there.
Uh-huh.
That's right there behind him.
Yeah. Now, he also mentions how the helmet is a sensory deprivation thing, like they wear in their training as a youngling. And so apparently he's fighting these Jedi and stuff, just using his, like Kanan did when he had his issues.
Well, I mean, that just speaks to even more badassery on his part, right? He killed all those Jedi with his eyes closed, basically.
But, in a way, if you can develop that skill, it's like you're more focused then because you're not distracted by irrelevant details in your field of vision.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and we also don't know because he said, "Why don't you take off the thing so you can read my thoughts?" We don't know if it also deprives senses that way. I don't know.
I think it does. I think that's what they were saying. Take off your helmet so you can read my thoughts.
Well, if it stops it to where he can't use the force through it, then he wouldn't be able to use the force that way, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I could see it either way.
I love it that they kept going back to it. That was
And
a
then,
crazy shot.
I
to
know.
see.
Usually, when somebody dies in the next episode, you won't see him again. You'll see somebody else being their body, but you won't see their face because
Yeah,
you don't want to hire an actor to come back and just lay there and be dead. But they probably filmed all these scenes together,
sure.
since it's streaming.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see her face again. I was like, oh
They should have little bugs crawling on it. Stuff.
no.
Grotesque.
Yeah,
Little creature like picking your eye out.
poor Yord.
Did he have a fake hand? Or was that armored?
No, it's armor.
Oh, okay.
Soul has it as well,
Right. Okay.
which I think is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of neat that they were looking at they're like you can tell they're using the force and their eyes and they're like trying to piece together what happened.
Stuff. I wonder if she's doing that power that Cal has in the Jedi games, where he could
Yeah.
get visions of what happened in the past. Maybe her character already. We know that from High Republic stuff, but
We get to see the light whip here.
yeah. So this
was
is
pretty cool.
So in the same episode, we see the curvy looking scars. Is the same episode we see her light whip.
Yeah.
And then it goes straight right before it comes in. I wonder if she can put lightsaber mode as well, where it stays straight.
I know it kind of goes when it came out. It came out straight and then started whipping around. I guess you wouldn't want it to just bloop out. It's my issue with stuff, but
the fact that it went straight just before it went in makes me wonder if it has a mode where it can just be like a normal lightsaber, so you can lightsaber fight with it. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. I want to see a lightsaber battle with it. How would that work?
Mm-hmm.
She wrap it around someone else's.
Well, I guess in the comic books you can see that.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to see it on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, that was fun to see. So this time she wakes up and she can't get up. I was happy to see that.
Yeah. They always bind Jedi, just like they did with Dooku, with these cuffs that have the blue glowy. And it makes me think, if they did regular cuffs, the Jedi could just use their powers to open them or bust them. So something about the blue glowy stops Jedi from doing more than just, you think, just by binding their hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about or how that works, or if it's just, their energy, so they're so much stronger that even with your Jedi boosting of your strength, you can't do it. I don't know.
So here's a question. It's called teach/corrupt. Which one is teaching and which one is corrupting?
I thought about that too. I think all of the slash words are designed to be taken either way.
Yeah. It's interesting because we don't know Quimir's or the stranger's history. Maybe it is actually bad. I think the twist of this whole series is going to be that the Jedi are the bad guys here. Not the whole Jedi as an organization.
This little group of them that
but
did
the
this.
Jedi, they ended up being the bad guys. They created an atrocity.
That's bad. We know that.
Sure.
Right. I don't think it's like, we decided we're going to slaughter all these witches. I don't think it was that. I think it was like they did something they shouldn't have done that was like a little bad, but because of that, all this terrible stuff ended up happening, and now they have this blame for what they did.
Yeah.
It's like they did something a little bad, but it resulted in way worse than they realized, and now it's this terrible thing, and then they never told anybody. So
the hard part,
they've done something bad. Now, as to this dude, though, I think there's got to be some sort of Sith interaction. Maybe he found a holocron, Who knows?
I mean, he definitely knows the teachings probably better than like a Padawan would normally get from any kind of
all the stuff he talked about emotions and feelings. He's gotten this from somewhere. He's not just left the Jedi Order and then made it up.
Right. Yeah.
But you're right. It could be some other more distant relationship. And he said, "You'd call me Sith, but the Sith wouldn't call me Sith." That's kind of what I got.
Basically, yeah.
And some people have said online, "Oh, what if he's related to the Knights of Ren?" I kind of doubt it. For some
I
reason.
think it'd be cool if his name is Ren and he starts the Knights of Ren.
Oh, that's his name.
Because we don't know his real name.
That'd be a cool twist. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've heard some cool theories that have been disproven, as if one of them that may actually did die, but the other one has projected the other one, and it's the one person, but they're living like split personalities, but in a dyad kind of, you know what I mean? Like it, like the person that died, but then her mind went into Osha and has created an almost like separate person. But they've disproved that now.
To be true.
Yeah. There's some cool ideas you can do, you know, because if you can pass a lightsaber back and forth through a dyad, what else could you do? You know, like it's interesting.
Little cool ideas, but I don't see them setting it out
there. I think that we're just heading towards finding out that the Jedi were bad guys in this story.
Yeah.
And maybe the overall feel of the Jedi trying to control everything is what created them being the bad guys, right? Them trying to control the witches and all that.
The whole order aren't bad guys, but they have some policies they've fallen into. They're starting to get political, and they're going out, and that kind of makes you susceptible to this kind of thing happening. And it may result in the Jedi changing their policies and coming back and not being out in as much in the other territories where they're not welcome or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really excited about it, and I'm really surprised. You know, what I imagined Acolyte was going to be before this, I didn't realize would tie so much into the lore of the Jedi and the larger picture and later things.
Right.
I didn't realize there'd be so many tie-ins to all that. I thought we were going to see some little isolated incidents with some individuals, and that was like it.
Like we did with Master Mundi, right?
Yeah, but like the whole show just basically being. So I'm pleasantly surprised that how integrated this whole thing is with the history of the Star Wars universe. It's really cool.
I think it's starting to come together a lot more than I thought it would from the first maybe 2 episodes.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder how much Dave Filoni had input into a lot of this stuff, because
he's running Star Wars, right? So
right. But I don't know exactly when his promotion happened, and even after the promotion, I don't know how much he really digs into other series. I hope he does, because he knows this stuff. This all sounds like stuff he would have been bring ideas about. So who knows? We'll see. Especially if my little theory turns out to be true, that she's the one that's the origin of the prophecy about the one that bring balance.
That'd be really cool.
If all that turned out to be true, then I definitely detect Filoni's influence. But
Filoni. Yeah. Well, I'm enjoying it. You know, I think in our 3rd episode, you said now you're hooked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said that I wasn't quite hooked, but I was still fascinated, enjoying the series and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the funny thing is, I think this is the one that hooked me. Even though I loved last.
Because you want to hear more about the bad guys' perspectives.
I love a villain's perspective. If you can make a villain feel real, like they really feel this way.
Antagonist's position, not just comic bookish or shallow. That's always going to be a great story.
It's always been my one issue with the Emperor, is that he's just a evil being, like classic, almost like twirling his mustache, like he had no.
But the whole Star Wars story is basically Nazis in space.
Sure.
core original trilogy story is space Nazis. It's okay to shoot them, fight them, kill them, do whatever you need to do because, they're the pure example of what we got to get rid of. And that creates this cool little simplified good versus evil story. But then what's cool is that just like in real life, that happens. That exists. There are moments like that. World War II, we had to fight the Nazis. But the really interesting thing is all those fuzzy edges that when it hasn't risen yet, how do we fall into that? And both as a society, but also as individuals, where does it start to notice that the slipping is happening? And what are the interesting ideas that seem appealing and seem true on the surface, but then you realize, wait a minute, this is the rise of something. This goes down a road.
Yeah.
Those are all fascinating, interesting things that now that Star Wars is established, we can really get into all these details with shows and other movies and everything.
I would argue that's why Andor is one of people's favorite series, is because instead of all these, I'm a Nazi out of nowhere kind of thing, like you're seeing how their minds are going into this and being
that's
driven.
really important, because if you only stayed on the most extreme examples, you would think, well, there's no way I could be a bad guy. There's no way I could fall into those things, and it's just them, or and that actually opens you up to more danger looking at the world in that way. So
it's fascinating in that series where you're like, yeah, she got one over on that guy. No, oh wait, they're both evil. Like you're like rooting for the evil person sometimes, and you're like, oh wait, no, they're evil.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You can start seeing by their mind, and that's why I'm feeling that way with Qimir. I'm starting to like.
He doesn't look at himself as evil, I'm sure.
Exactly. He thinks his philosophy is the correct one, and the Jedi are all corrupt in their own way.
One of the coolest lines he had was when he said, "Why do you want to love people that can only go so far?" That was a cool little insight in his view on the Jedi's approach to these. So anyway, now I totally, anti-Empire, anti-Sith personally.
Of course.
But I want to see the people who, really believe those things, and I want to learn about their views. So that
I'm fascinated by that. Yeah. And that's why I say this is the episode that hooks me, is because I start seeing I see the reasoning behind the characters. Yeah.
And the Jedi are being written pretty well in this. I'm a little off-put in general by the idea that it has nothing to, it's not the fault of this series, but in general, a lot of people don't really understand the Jedi or why they have the views they have. And so almost all the time we're seeing examples of Jedi failing or not living up to or whatever, because that makes good drama. It gives you a reason to have interesting things happening that don't normally happen. So I think people forget that for thousands and thousands of years, the vast majority of Jedi don't have a problem. They live this way. They're fine. They encounter hardships, but they endure them because their Jedi code keeps things fine, and it works for them, and it keeps, in most part, throughout most of history, peace and justice in the galaxy. And these events that happen from the High Republic into the film times are the ways that they faltered. But those falters came about because of them faltering, not because of the core Jedi teachings or principles having an issue. It was because they started to abandon those things and forget them and acting differently that caused the problem.
Sure. I mean, the way that Palpatine ultimately destroys the Jedi is not by Order 66, but by getting them involved in a war.
Yeah. The moment they started becoming generals in that war and started drifting,
they really lost their way.
He basically handed them, it's just like Qimir handing her the lightsaber. giving them a reason, kind of taking advantage and getting them to get off from that principles. That's what Qui-Gon Jinn's problems with the council were. He could see
Right.
that they had moved, that their gauge had moved from what it should have been.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of that off of this, but yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I suspect that the next episode is going to be Soul's explanation of what happened, right? And then the last episode is the
We got 2 more.
culmination of everything. Yeah, everybody coming together. I think he's taking her to the planet where Osha is, because he's got May. He's like, where's the planet? That's the only information she could really give.
I don't know how he would know that, though, but I guess
May knows. We know that May knows that planet because she showed up in episode 1.
Right. But when he hit hyperspace away from the planet, he was going somewhere at that moment, at least. Maybe
he was like, oh, they're coming. Hit hyperspace just out in a little ways and then get information from May. Or she might have already told him.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think you're right, though. Next episode is going to be the big reveal, letting everybody know what's at stake and who needs to do what. And then last episode will be the conflict of the climax.
I don't know what bad thing they could have done that they all would have had to agree to, because if one of them did something bad, then the rest of them would have stopped them. Or
what made 4 different master Jedis? I don't know if they were all masters, but they were Jedi Knights.
Well, we know one was a Padawan, Torben.
Right. You had a Padawan, you had a master in Trinity.
And Dara.
That's his character. And then you had, I guess the other 2 were knights.
I think Soul was a knight. He seemed pretty young at that point,
But all 4 of these people were willing to not say anything, It feels like the movie Courage Under Fire. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but Denzel Washington is investigating what happened when somebody died and a fellow soldier died. I
think you mentioned this on one of the other episodes.
Oh, okay. As they're talking to the different people around there, their stories don't line up, and it starts becoming this really interesting investigation. And obviously, something happened that they're not talking about. It kind of reminds me of that, but
and
it's also because they're all supposed to follow this honor code, and it's eating at them. It's a very similar sort of thing too. But
cool. I did just want to note that it was really cool that they ended with her. Yeah.
Yeah, the breathing into it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Like, this mask is hot. It's sweaty in there. It doesn't have
it almost like harkens to like Darth Vader's breathing, right?
Of
like
course.
when the mask came.
So that's what it's alluding to.
So, anyway, so that's our discussion on episode 6. I think it was 6. Cool. Teach and Corrupt. Let us know what you think. Any other fan theories that we haven't talked about or discussed? Let us know.
Yep.
Thanks everybody for watching.